She hasn't touched land in 30 years, but tonight she returns to the exact beach where she was born. Beneath your feet, 100 lives are hatching. Above the reef, ancient titans duel in slow-motion combat. And in the abyss, a turtle older than your grandparents dives deeper than submarines. This isn't just a wildlife film, this is a 100-million-year survival saga. The moon hangs low over the coast, casting its silver spell across the restless shoreline. The beach, so tranquil to the human eye, is anything but still beneath the surface. Just beneath the crust of warm sand, a soft stirring begins. Faint tremors, like whispers from the deep, ripple through the grains. There is no cry, no sound of labor, but something ancient stirs. In the hidden womb of the earth, small eggs begin to pulse with life. And then, without fanfare, without warning, the surface fractures. From the shifting dunes, tiny black eyes blink into a world of shadows and stars. They have arrived, not like infants into the safety of arms, but like gladiators thrust into an arena. The hatchlings emerge not one by one, but in a coordinated explosion of movement, as if summoned by some ancient drumbeat buried in their blood. They don't stop to gaze or breathe or hesitate. No ceremony here, only instinct, sharpened by millions of years. Each one is a coin tossed into the sea of fate, and the beach is no nursery. It is a war zone. The sand, which once cradled them in warmth, is now a gauntlet. Ghost crabs, with their pale armor and twitching eyes, rise like sentries from unseen burrows. They are fast, startlingly fast. Their sideways dash deceptive, their claws quick and cold. One hatchling veers left, a moment too slow. Snap. It vanishes into the night without a sound. Overhead, shadows move in silence. Frigate birds and night herons sweep low, their beaks like knives. From above, the tiny turtles are nothing but wriggling snacks outlined by the moonlight. Yet they run. No, scramble! Their flippers aren't made for land, but desperation turns awkwardness into purpose. Their bodies slide, tumble, and claw over ridges of sand like miniature tanks in a minefield. Each grain becomes a boulder, each step forward is a prayer. And the irony of it all, the sea, that vast sanctuary they are destined for, is itself a trap. The second they hit the water, the real predators awaken. Waiting just beyond the first waves are needlefish, barracudas, and young reef sharks. Creatures with senses honed for vibrations, flickers, and fear. The ocean does not welcome them. It tests them, but not yet. First, the final dash. The beach itself plays tricks. A distant glow on the horizon from the moonlit surf is their guide. Yet heat and reflections can confuse even the sharpest instincts. Some veer inland by mistake, climbing toward dunes and darkness, thinking it's the sea. For those, the journey ends before it begins, trapped in footprints, snared by roots, or baked by the rising sun. No claws, no teeth, just silence. Still, amid this chaos, there's poetry. One hatchling, no bigger than a sand dollar, takes an unlikely path, straight toward a small tidal stream winding down the beach. It stumbles in, tumbles with the water, and is swept forward faster than the rest. In this accidental shortcut, it avoids the worst of the gauntlet. Nature's flukes, it seems, aren't always cruel. Among scientists, this brutal ballet has a name, the predation bottleneck. It's a simple, merciless math. Out of a clutch of 100 eggs, often fewer than 5 reach the open sea. Evolution's strategy? Go for quantity. The ocean doesn't guarantee survival, but it offers anonymity. And for sea turtles, vanishing into the blue is their only shield. Yet the beach holds more than just predators and peril. It holds legacy. The sand they break free from is not random. Each mother, decades earlier, returned to the very beach where she once escaped death herself, guided by forces science still doesn't fully understand. Geomagnetic fields, perhaps, or the faint chemical scent of birthplace. Each hatchling on this beach may be the great-grandchild of another who made this same run under another moon. Now, one final push. The surf roars louder, the tide pulls closer. For the lucky few who dodge claws and beaks, the first kiss of foam is almost comical. The waves slap them back, toss them around like socks in a washing machine. The sea tests them, even as it welcomes them. But eventually, with a stubborn flip and paddle, they make it beyond the breakers. And then, they disappear. Just like that. Into the vast yawning blue. No mother to guide them, no shelter to hide in, just open ocean. What happens next is one of the sea's greatest mysteries, a period scientists call the lost years, because nobody really knows where they go or how they survive. They vanish into the gyres, float with seaweed highways and drift with the winds of fate. But that's a story for another tide. For now, the moon sets. The beach falls quiet again. The ghosts of crabs retreat to their burrows. The birds tuck into the trees, and in the sand beneath the surface, another nest begins to stir. Another secret legion, waiting to rise. Because the beach is not done, and the ocean has only just begun its trials. The shoreline fades, shrinking behind them like a vanishing dream, as the hatchlings cross an invisible threshold where sand meets endless blue. Here, the world unrolls in liquid silence. No landmarks, no boundaries, just a shimmering, undulating plain of possibility. The newborn turtles, barely larger than a child's palm, are now voyagers on a journey written into their bones, but known to no map. They kick instinctively, paddling into vastness, unaware that they have just plunged into one of the most enigmatic chapters of marine life, the lost years. Years spent out of sight, out of reach, and for a long time out of science's grasp. Out here, the ocean offers no welcome mat. It is both womb and wild frontier. These hatchlings, so recently survivors of the sand sprint, now become specks in an aquatic cosmos, smaller than the shadows of the waves above them. But nature, in all her paradoxical kindness, has prepared a floating refuge, a drifting golden jungle called the sargassum. This floating seaweed, a tangle of amber vines, forms rafts across the ocean, catching sunlight and cradling life. For the turtles, it's not just cover, it's a survival station. Within its curling fronds, they find food, shelter, warmth, and camouflaged chaos. Tiny shrimp scuttle like gossiping neighbors. Fish larvae dart between the leaves like nervous commuters. It's a floating city, except everything here is edible looking or planning to eat. From above, a juvenile turtle tucked in sargassum looks like nothing more than flotsam, a leaf caught in a weed cluster. But beneath the golden canopy, the dynamics turn strange. Mahi-mahi, sleek and metallic like living missiles, patrol these floating islands with predatory elegance. To them, the sargassum is a buffet line. They slip beneath it with twitchy tails, hunting not with brute force, but speed that comes out of nowhere. A flick, a flash, and the turtle's neighbor vanishes. There is no warning, no growl, only an absence where something used to be. And yet the turtles remain, as if gambling with fate in exchange for a roof. The ocean offers no better deals. The sargassum, for all its perils, is the best lease in town. Currents, though invisible to the eye, are the true roads of this realm. These baby turtles don't just swim, they ride. Hooked into the North Atlantic gyre or the South Pacific swirl, they glide for thousands of kilometers, powered not by their tiny flippers, but by the very breath of the planet. These gyres are like giant marine carousels, rotating slowly with a rhythm older than continents. To a turtle, catching one is like hopping on a cosmic bus line, with no driver, no stops, and no guarantee of where you'll end up. Miss it, and you drift into the doldrums, warm, stagnant waters where food is scarce, and the sun cooks everything from above. Even in the ocean, getting stuck in traffic can be deadly. Life here doesn't play by the rules of size or strength. One might think a jellyfish, transparent, jiggly, seemingly innocent, would be a danger only to the soft-skinned or foolish. But turtles, they love them. These wandering babies gulp them down like chewy snacks, immune to the venom that would paralyze other animals. It's one of nature's quirks. A hatchling that can barely outswim a fish can swallow a jellyfish laced with stings and live to burp about it. And it's not just for fun. Jellyfish are rich in water, yes, but also in protein. In the open ocean, when your next meal might be days away, a floating bag of sting becomes a delicacy. And then there's the phenomenon of flying fish. A misnomer if there ever was one. They don't fly, they flee. With tails whipping like jackhammers, they launch from the sea's surface and soar for meters, sometimes dozens, gliding just inches above the waves. Their panic is not random. Something below is chasing, something fast, something sleek, perhaps a dorado, perhaps a tuna, or something hungrier. The turtles caught in the crossfire must hold course. One flinches, caught in the whiplash of a startled fish, spinning in place before recovering. The ocean is not a calm conveyor belt. It's a series of near misses, constant shifts, and decisions made in milliseconds. In rare moments, the water calms. Sunlight penetrates deeper, turning the world golden. Here, the turtle floats motionless, a tiny silhouette suspended in a vast cathedral of light and shadow. It's in these quiet pockets that something extraordinary happens. Growth. In just a few weeks, these infants double, triple in size. Their shells harden, their flippers strengthen, their senses sharpen. They begin to recognize patterns, where the water grows cooler, where the currents swell, how the light bends at different times of day. Science still can't fully explain how much of this is learned versus embedded in their ancient neural wiring. But something shifts. They're no longer passengers. They're apprentices of the sea. Even so, many won't make it. Not because they are weak, but because the ocean is indifferent. Storms will come, sudden and merciless, flipping entire mats of sargassum, scattering life like leaves in a gale. Lightning will crack the sky like a whip. Waves, taller than buildings, will rise from nowhere, swallowing everything in their path. Turtles who've known only the gentle bob of the gyre are suddenly tossed, spun, disoriented. Some wash into colder currents where their bodies slow, where food vanishes, and where hypothermia waits like an unseen assassin. And yet, those who survive emerge transformed. No longer hatchlings, not quite adults. They are ocean-hardened, leaner, faster, smarter. They have danced with currents, outmaneuvered teeth, and learned to read the sea the way a sailor reads wind. And with each passing day, something tugs at them. A call. Not loud, not urgent, but steady, pulling them forward, toward distant feeding grounds they have never seen, toward future islands where reefs rise like fortresses from the abyss. Ahead lies a new chapter, coral kingdoms full of color and cunning, where the turtle must learn not just to drift, but to navigate, to forage, to avoid ambushes hidden in beauty. But that's the thing about the sea. Every stage of life is a test, and every answer leads only to a harder question. And for the turtle, the journey has only just begun. The open sea is not a peaceful place. It only pretends to be. Underneath the rolling blue tranquility lies a silent war, a constant contest of shadows, speed, and split-second decisions. For the juvenile sea turtle, now larger than a dinner plate and bearing the toughened calluses of survival, this is the moment everything changes. Gone are the days of drifting unseen among floating seaweed cities. The camouflage of infancy has peeled away with growth, and in its place comes visibility, and with it, vulnerability. In the deep pelagic zone where the ocean begins to feel like outer space, their silhouette is now a target painted in motion, and every predator in this boundless hunting ground is watching. The first to sense them are the sleek assassins of the deep, reef sharks, dusky sharks, and the dreaded tiger shark, a species so unbothered by menu variety it's been found with tires and license plates in its gut. These are no Hollywood villains. They don't roar, they don't rush. They glide with mathematical grace, their movements smoother than the current itself. Sharks are not driven by hunger alone, but by opportunity, curiosity, and precision. And a young turtle flapping through the water with awkward hope can look like a floating buffet item, if it moves wrong. The ocean is filled with noise, but not the kind we hear with ears. It's a language of pressure pulses, electric fields, and vibrations. Sharks can detect a single heartbeat in the water, literally. Their electroreceptive organs, tiny jelly-filled pores called ampullae of Lorenzini, make them living metal detectors, sniffing out not gold or coins, but life. One flap of a turtle's flipper sends out a ripple of its location. That heartbeat, that twitch, is a dinner bell ringing far louder than any scream. But speed is not always the answer in these waters. Many turtles, paradoxically, survive by slowing down. By flattening their bodies, minimizing movement, or letting the current carry them, they confuse the predator's senses. An animal that isn't moving is far harder to find. Some even mimic the sway of driftwood, letting go of the fight for just long enough to fool a cruising hunter. Ironically, pretending to be dead often keeps them alive. Yet sharks are not the only hunters out here. In the open blue, predators come from above as well. Frigate birds, those devil-shaped silhouettes that rule the skies, have been known to pluck surface-swimming turtles straight from the water. Imagine surviving the jaws of the deep, only to be lifted into the sky by a thief with feathers. The ocean offers no single direction of danger. It is an ambush from all angles. And then there are the blade runners, marlins and sailfish, predators with weapons on their faces. They slice through the sea like living spears, using their bills to stun prey with slashing strikes, sometimes shearing schools of fish apart in an explosion of scales. One might think a turtle's shell is good protection, and for slow grazers near the seafloor, it often is. But in the mid-water column, spinning among tuna blitzes and marlin jousts, that shell becomes a liability. Blunt force trauma doesn't care if you're armored. A wrong place, wrong time moment can end in a cracked carapace and a slow sink to the bottom. But turtles are not defenseless. Nature has outfitted them with surprises. The design of their limbs, more wings than flippers, allows for remarkable agility. They can pivot mid-glide, flip vertically, and corkscrew through thermoclines to dodge faster predators. In short bursts, they are not the plodding slowpokes cartoons would have us believe. Especially the loggerheads and greens, their flippers don't just move, they slice. And while they may not outrun a shark in a straight sprint, they don't have to. All they need is one mistake from the attacker. One hesitated lunge, one disrupted trajectory. The sea is filled with mightier animals, but few as unpredictable as a panicked turtle with nothing to lose. Interestingly, the most cunning survival strategy some turtles use is vertical escape. They dive deep, far deeper than expected. Some juveniles have been recorded plunging hundreds of meters into pitch blackness to avoid danger, entering the twilight zone where pressure mounts and color fades. Down here, they're not just escaping predators. They're facing new ones: giant squid, deep-water sharks, bioluminescent hunters. But such a gamble is often worth it. In the deep, fewer eyes can follow. And with lungs that can hold a breath for hours, the turtle has one rare advantage: time. Of course, there's always the wild card, the remora. This suction-cupped hitchhiker attaches itself to everything from sharks to whales, and yes, turtles. Sometimes mistaken for parasites, remoras actually serve as mobile cleaning crews, picking off algae and debris, but they also make turtles more visible. A turtle swimming solo is harder to notice than one trailing a remora like a banner. Nature once again offers a mixed bag, hygiene at the cost of stealth. As days stretch into weeks, the turtle learns, not by instruction or inheritance, but through relentless trial and error. One turn saved them from a barracuda's charge. One dive carried them under a jellyfish swarm. One calm pause avoided detection by a circling hammerhead. Survival becomes a ballet of improvisation. And with every successful evasion, something inside the turtle strengthens. Not just muscle, but memory. Because the ocean doesn't forget, and neither do its voyagers. But the gauntlet never truly ends. Even as the turtle grows stronger, the predators grow larger, craftier, faster. Orcas prowl open waters with the cold logic of assassins. Giant groupers lie in wait like living cave-ins. And in the coral reef fringes, where the turtle's next chapter begins, lurk ambush artists like the octopus, the moray eel, and the stealthy reef shark. Ahead lies a world painted in impossible color. Reefs that bloom like underwater cities, filled with beauty, deception, and hidden claws. The turtle is no longer a drifting infant, nor a target in training. It is a survivor now, stepping into a realm where survival means navigating not just predators, but labyrinths. But even in paradise, the hunt never stops. Beneath the burnished glow of the sunlit sea, a turtle glides. Not like a creature burdened by armor, but like a spacecraft in zero gravity, slicing through blue layers with unhurried elegance. At first glance, the shell is merely its shield, a curved fortress of bone and keratin, sculpted for survival. But that's the illusion. This isn't armor worn, it's armor grown. The turtle doesn't carry its house, it is the house. Every plate, every ridge, every groove on that dome tells a story that predates mammals, mountains, and even the continents themselves. For over 100 million years, this design has barely changed, because nature doesn't bother improving what already flirts with perfection. Run your eyes along its back, and you'll see a galaxy of hexagons and scutes, each one a solar panel of sorts, absorbing and regulating heat. Turtles are cold-blooded, but they're not temperature slaves. They surf thermoclines and bask in sunlit shallows, using their shell not just as insulation, but as a passive heating system. The darker the shell, the faster it absorbs heat. A convenient feature when you're trying to warm up for a deep dive or fend off fungal growth. Some shells are near black, absorbing the sun's energy like a living solar collector, while others take on mossy greens or bronzed browns to blend with reef or kelp, nature's version of tactical camouflage. But beneath this smooth carapace is a world of complexity. The shell is fused with the turtle's spine and ribs, meaning that unlike the armor of an armadillo or pangolin, a turtle cannot crawl out of its shell, because it would have to leave its own skeleton behind. And inside this shell, the turtle's lungs are compressed against the top dome, expanding and contracting as it ascends and descends. Breathing, therefore, becomes a whole-body movement. Some turtles even use muscles in their rear to pump oxygen through, a fact that, while not the most dignified, does add a certain charm to their underwater poise. And then there's the curious matter of sound. Turtles have no external ears. One might assume they are deaf, drifting in a world of silence. But the truth is stranger. Their shell, with its dense bone and unique structure, acts as a resonant chamber. Low-frequency vibrations, the deep thrum of a distant whale, the muted crackle of a reef, even the distant boom of thunder overhead, can be picked up and conducted through the shell into the inner ear. It's not hearing in the way we think of it. It's feeling sound, like a seismic whisper across the body. In a world of muffled acoustics, this ability becomes a sixth sense, a shell that not only shields but listens. Evolution hasn't just armored the turtle, it's streamlined it. Despite its bulky appearance, the shell is hydrodynamic, sculpted to cut through water with minimal drag. Leatherback turtles, the largest of them all, can grow to the size of a small car, and yet still cross entire oceans. Their shells are softer, more pliable, and ridged for maximum efficiency at depth, allowing them to dive over 1,000 meters beneath the surface. Down there, in the twilight zone where pressure crushes submarines, the shell flexes just enough to prevent fracture. It's as if evolution handed them a submarine with flippers. But even the hardest armor has its cracks. Barnacles often hitch rides, embedding themselves like parasites on the outer shell. While some are harmless stowaways, others burrow deep, slowing the turtle or irritating its skin. And yet turtles rarely seem bothered. They've become floating ecosystems, carrying small universes on their backs. Crabs, shrimp, even algae colonies. The shell is more than defense, it's a living island. Not all shells are created equal, of course. Hawksbill turtles, those reef-dwelling acrobats, have overlapping scutes, jagged and serrated like a saw blade, which help them wedge into coral crevices and pry out sponges, their favorite and somewhat toxic snack. Loggerheads sport thicker, more domed armor, designed to withstand the crushing bite of predators like tiger sharks. And then there's the olive ridley, whose lighter, smoother shell suits its penchant for mass migrations and synchronized beach landings. Form follows function, and function dances with fate, yet the shell is not invincible. Cracks can happen, from boat strikes, from shark bites, from brutal mating tussles. Remarkably, many turtles survive even gaping wounds, thanks to a biological superpower, bone regeneration. Their shells can scar, rebuild, and seal themselves over time. In essence, they heal like armored tanks with built-in repair crews. And the stories are etched in their carapaces, deep gashes that speak of battles won, predators evaded, storms survived. In mythology and folklore, the turtle's shell often represents the world itself, round, ancient, enduring. In some traditions, the earth is said to rest on the back of a great turtle swimming through cosmic oceans. And perhaps it's not so far from truth. These creatures do carry something eternal with them, a piece of time's architecture wrapped in keratin and bone. But the most astonishing part of the shell isn't its strength, it's its memory. Inside the bones of the shell, in growth rings like those of trees, lies a record of the turtle's life, its diet, its health, the temperature of the waters it traveled through. Scientists can now read these shells to trace migrations, stress events, even chemical exposure from years past. In essence, the shell is a living logbook. Each turtle, unknowingly, writes its own autobiography across the span of decades, layer by layer, molecule by molecule. And so the turtle glides onward, armored, aware and ancient, the ocean's silent astronaut in a vessel of bone. The shell does not shout, it does not shimmer, but it endures generation after generation, surviving the end of the dinosaurs, the rise of ice ages, the birth of continents. The world changes, the turtle does not. And the secret may lie right there, in the curved, quiet fortress upon its back. But for every voyager in armor, there must come a destination. And ahead, far beyond the horizon, the turtle enters a new world. One painted in coral, teeming with life and hidden ambushes. A place where colors dazzle, but the rules of survival twist like sea anemones in current. The reef awaits, and not every friend wears a friendly face. Somewhere in the heart of the pelagic deep, beneath a night sky smudged with stardust and salt spray, a lone sea turtle arcs downward into darkness. The surface behind her collapses into moonlit ripples, and the deeper she dives, the quieter the world becomes. Down here, sound travels like breath through hollow bone, distant, ancient, haunting. The water thickens with pressure, the light thins into navy shadows, and time itself seems to slow. But there's no panic in her descent. This is not aimless sinking. This is purposeful, practiced. She knows where she's going, even though no one taught her, and no line on any human map could lead the way. For a creature with no visible tools, no sextant or compass, the turtle is among the greatest navigators Earth has ever produced. She will travel thousands of miles over the course of decades, vanishing into gyres, braving predators, surviving cyclones and ocean swells the size of buildings. And yet somehow she will return, not just to the same island or the same bay, but to the very beach where she first touched sand, where she first tasted air, the same grainy cradle of her birth. And she'll do it with no GPS, no visual cues, no trail to follow. Instead, she follows something older, something etched not in memory, but in the magnetic marrow of her bones. It begins with the Earth's heartbeat. Beneath our feet and under the waves, the planet pulses with invisible lines of force. These magnetic fields, generated by the molten core spinning deep below, stretch across the globe like an unseen web. While humans remain mostly blind to them, turtles feel them like a whisper beneath the skin. Tiny particles of magnetite embedded in their tissues act as internal compasses, responding to the planet's magnetic grid. Each beach, each coastline, emits a unique magnetic signature, like a fingerprint pressed into the Earth's invisible skin. And when a turtle swims, it swims through this field as if tracing a song remembered from the womb. But this magnetic map isn't just a tool, it's a story. Some turtles return after 10, 20, even 30 years at sea. In that time, the currents have shifted, tides have changed. The continents have nudged a little farther apart. Yet still, with a precision that bewilders scientists, they find their birthplace again. Even slight variations in magnetic intensity, just a few microteslas of difference, can trigger course corrections. When waters grow unfamiliar, the turtle doesn't panic. It adjusts. It feels the field like a blind sculptor tracing the contours of a forgotten face. And there's more than magnetism. As the turtle surfaces for breath, she lifts her head and catches not just air but scent, carried for miles across ocean winds, dissolved in seawater, and lingering like perfume on the breeze. Sea turtles can detect chemical cues in the water with astounding sensitivity. The unique blend of organic compounds, mineral traces, and microbial presence in the sand of their natal beach creates a scent signature that is, to a turtle, unforgettable. It's olfactory nostalgia, the smell of home. Even the stars above offer their guidance. For juvenile turtles near the surface, celestial orientation helps calibrate their internal compass. They don't read constellations like sailors, but use the light of the Milky Way to differentiate east from west, north from south. At dusk and dawn, the subtle hues of the sky, lavender, copper, violet, provide directional cues that guide their migration with eerie accuracy. The universe becomes their roadmap, written in glitter and gas. But navigation isn't just about knowing where you are. It's also about choosing when to move. And here the turtle's timing is uncanny. Using cues from the lunar cycle, temperature gradients, and even the subtle tilt of the sun, she waits. Waits until the wind shifts just enough, until the current tugs just right, until the moon is high and the tides open the underwater highways. Then, and only then, does she begin her return. The distances they cross are staggering. Leatherbacks have been tracked migrating over 10,000 miles between feeding grounds and nesting beaches. Greens cross oceans from Brazil to Africa and back. One turtle, tagged in Australia, was found swimming along the coast of Papua New Guinea over a year later, and still heading straight. They don't drift randomly. They travel with intent, correcting course not with landmarks, but with an inherited wisdom we're only beginning to understand. Yet not all turtles make it. The ocean does not reward perfect direction with mercy. Storms rise like gods, gyres loop like snares. And when magnetic fields shift, as they do subtly over years, some turtles arrive a little off target. They land on neighboring beaches close but not home, and still they lay their eggs, instinct unshaken. In that moment, evolution makes a bet that perhaps this new beach, this nearby patch of sand, will be just as good. A branching of the path, a new waypoint carved into the grand migratory network. Sometimes, when the world above the sea is disturbed, during solar storms, for example, the magnetic lines wobble. Researchers have noticed turtles drifting slightly off course during such cosmic tempests, but they adjust, they recalibrate, they feel their way back. And in doing so, they reveal something extraordinary. They are not passengers in the ocean. They are its map makers. There is one more mystery, still unsolved, still tantalizing. How do hatchlings, only minutes old, immediately know which direction to swim? The sand is behind them, the surf ahead, and yet they never turn the wrong way. Some scientists believe that, in their first frantic moments of crawling, hatchlings memorize the magnetic imprint of the beach, a kind of biological snapshot, taken in a heartbeat and stored for life. If true, this would mean that a turtle's very first instinct is not just to run, but to remember. And now our Voyager, mature and mission-bound, rises once more toward the surface. The waters grow warmer. The salt in the air tastes familiar. A particular note in the sea breeze rings true, and there, far on the horizon, lies the coast. Not just any coast, but the coast. The one that called her back across an entire ocean. The one that whispers of egg chambers and moonlit landings. The one that will soon host the next generation of Voyagers, who will someday feel the same invisible tug in their blood. But before she touches sand again, before she digs with her flippers under the stars, she must pass through the Coral Kingdom, a realm of light and ambush, of food and foes in brilliant disguise. And in that tangled world of color and deception, not every danger announces itself with teeth. The map has guided her this far, but the reef has its own rules. The light changes first, as it always does when the deep gives way to the reef. The blue becomes fractured, kaleidoscopic. Shafts of sunlight lance down through the water like cathedral windows, breaking across a rising jungle of stone and color. Coral spires tower upward, their surfaces bristling with movement and mystery. What once was an endless desert of open sea now transforms into a bustling metropolis, noisy, dense, layered. This is no longer the open ocean's empty theater. This is a stage crowded with actors, each rehearsing their lines in predator and prey. And into this shimmering labyrinth glides the sea turtle, older now, stronger, but entering a realm where strength alone means little. To the untrained eye, the coral reef is a riot of beauty, an explosion of life that dazzles and enchants. But for the turtle, it's a terrain of shifting fortunes, part sanctuary, part ambush. Here, color doesn't mean comfort. It often means camouflage. A predator with no patience is a hungry one, and this world rewards patience. From the cracks between brain coral and sea fans, jaws emerge. A moray eel, mouth constantly agape, not from aggression but to breathe, peers out with alien eyes. Its teeth, thin and translucent, curve backward, perfect for gripping. It doesn't strike without cause, but if a turtle passes too close, brushing the wrong ledge or reaching for a sponge already claimed, the eel will snap like a sprung trap. And when it does, even the shell may not be enough. And yet the turtle comes, not out of recklessness, but necessity. Coral reefs are one of the richest dining halls in the sea, and sea turtles, especially hawksbills, have developed peculiar tastes. While others nibble on seagrass or jellyfish, hawksbills go for sponges, some of which contain toxins that would knock most fish unconscious. Strangely, turtles seem immune. They chew slowly, methodically, as though savoring the burn. Some sponges contain silicate, essentially microscopic glass, and yet the turtle's beak-shaped mouth handles it like a gourmet chef, slicing through tough cheese. Nature's culinary preferences often come with danger, and here danger hides in every flavor. Even feeding must be performed with grace. The reef doesn't reward clumsiness. A misstep, or rather, a misstroke, can mean scraping flesh on sharp coral, getting wedged between rocky fingers, or attracting the attention of something lurking just beyond sight. Reef sharks patrol the perimeters like security guards with too much caffeine. They're not here for a meal unless one offers itself too easily. A turtle injured or panicked or simply too slow becomes a clear signal. The predator's strategy is not a chase, it's a test. Circle, wait, gauge. Let the reef do the damage, then strike. But the reef offers more than food and fear. It offers maintenance. In these shallows, cleaner fish and shrimp congregate at stations like underwater spas. Turtles hover over these spots like giant flying saucers, letting small fish zip around them, picking algae and parasites off their shells and skin. It's a mutually beneficial ritual. The cleaners get meals and the turtle gets polished. And sometimes in these moments, there's a visible release. The turtle lets out a stream of bubbles, its limbs relax, and it simply floats. It's hard not to see this as pleasure, or at least the closest thing a reptile can show to contentment. Rest is just as important here as feeding. Beneath overhangs and inside underwater caves, turtles wedge themselves into rocky nooks and nap. Their ability to slow their heart rate allows them to sleep for hours underwater, using only a few breaths. Some wedge themselves so tightly that they appear fused to the reef itself, motionless, part of the structure. These caves become sanctuaries, but they can also become traps. If spooked during slumber, a turtle needs to back out and surface quickly, and sometimes the narrow passages make escape awkward. In such moments, predators nearby, especially octopuses or barracudas, don't need to chase, they just need to wait. But it's not just the obvious threats that shape this battlefield. The reef has its subtle killers. Cone snails, no larger than a finger, can shoot a harpoon of venom capable of killing within minutes. Stonefish bury themselves in sand, disguised perfectly, armed with dorsal spines laced with neurotoxins. Even the coral itself can cut. Some species release mucus nets to trap plankton, but on occasion, they catch more than they bargained for. The reef is an orchestra of quiet sabotage, and the turtle must navigate it like a seasoned burglar in a laser-lit vault. And yet, the turtle thrives. Its streamlined body allows it to pivot, rise and fall through the coral towers with surprising agility. It moves not with the flailing panic of prey, but with the gliding confidence of one who's learned the reef's rhythm. It knows which alleyways lead to food, which caves offer refuge, and which shadows to avoid. And sometimes it seems to take pleasure in the maze. Play is rare in the wild, but observers have seen turtles riding currents between coral channels, circling the same rocky outcrop again and again as if enjoying the ride. Evolution rewards survival, but sometimes it allows for joy. There is, however, one final danger, one that arrives not from below or within, but above. In the shallowest reef flats during low tide and intense sun, turtles can overheat. The very warmth that powers their muscles and digestion can also threaten them. If they linger too long in sunlit shallows, their internal temperature rises. Unlike mammals, they cannot sweat, and their shells, though armored, can absorb and trap heat. In such moments, survival depends on instinct. A quick descent, a glide into a shaded cave, a wait until the heat passes. The reef seduces with beauty, but like all temptresses, it demands awareness. As the day fades and the reef turns lavender in the sinking light, the turtle moves on, fed, cleaned, and whole. She has passed through another gauntlet, not of sharks and marlins this time, but of subtle threats wrapped in technicolor allure. The coral city recedes behind her, alive with secrets, whispering promises of danger and reward. Ahead, the open sea awaits again, but this time, her direction is changing. There's something building in her bones, a quiet call growing louder, a shift in current, in temperature, in memory. She's not just wandering anymore. She's beginning to turn toward home. And the home she seeks will not greet her kindly. For before she reaches the place of her birth, she must survive the chaos of competition, not for food or safety, but for love. As the seasons shift and the water warms with a subtle ancient rhythm, a strange electricity hums through the sea, invisible to the eye, yet felt by every creature tuned into the ocean's deep pulse. It stirs instinct, memory, and something deeper still, the call to continue. Far from any reef, in the open blue where currents sweep uninterrupted and the sunlight scatters like molten silver, the sea turtles begin to gather, not in great herds or loud ceremony, but quietly, like old ghosts returning to a familiar haunt. What follows is not tender, not delicate, and not even remotely romantic by human standards. It is, however, profoundly powerful. A dance older than coral, choreographed not by choice, but by survival. The female arrives first, broad-shelled and commanding, her movements slow and unbothered by the commotion already beginning to swirl around her. She is not here to seek, but to be sought. And as if summoned by her very presence, the males appear, smaller, sleeker, and less subtle. They approach with the urgency of suitors who know time is short, competition fierce, and the stakes nothing less than legacy. But this is no love story whispered over candlelight. This is biology with brawn. The sea for a time becomes a coliseum. The males circle her with a mixture of grace and awkwardness, their flippers twitching with agitation, their heads craned forward in cautious determination. There's no soft serenade, just probing nips, nudges, and if she tolerates the advances, an attempted embrace. But the female is no passive prize. If she's not interested, and often she isn't, she'll twist, dive, and swerve with the elegance of a leaf in wind, leaving males scrambling like clumsy satellites. She may even deliver a decisive slap of her powerful rear flippers, a message no male mistakes for affection. But should she allow one close, the courtship becomes something altogether more chaotic. The chosen male climbs atop her shell, gripping her tightly with elongated claws, specially adapted for this singular purpose. It's a difficult position in a three-dimensional world. Currents push and pull, waves rise and dip, and gravity, long forgotten in the open sea, returns in full during this peculiar embrace. To stay attached, the male must use every ounce of strength, balance, and determination. And just when he thinks he's succeeded, another suitor crashes in. What unfolds then is a spectacle of aquatic clashing. Flipper against flipper, jaws snapping at tails, shells grinding like tectonic plates. Rival males charge, attempting to dislodge the incumbent with brute force or crafty leverage. Some try to insert themselves between the pair, like homewreckers with poor timing. Others circle endlessly, waiting for fatigue to open a gap. It's less of a love triangle and more of a love brawl, with the sea as a referee that shows no favoritism. In these contests, size and speed help, but so does strategy. Some males conserve energy, waiting for their rivals to wear themselves out before making a final, well-aimed push. Others play dirty, biting at vulnerable limbs or blocking their opponent's breath by pushing them downward. The chaos isn't without cost. Scratches, broken scales, even damaged flippers are common injuries. And through it all, the female carries the full weight of not just one, but often several clinging, competing males. Her survival instincts sharpen. She must conserve energy, keep her air reserves in mind, and occasionally dive to escape the frenzy. But once a male holds his position long enough and earns her tolerance, the miracle unfolds quietly. Fertilization happens not in spectacle, but in a whisper beneath the waves. And the female, ever the strategist, stores the sperm within her body, capable of using it to fertilize multiple clutches over the coming weeks. She becomes, in a way, the guardian of genetic futures, choosing when, where, and how many lives will begin from the tempest of that encounter. Still, the story doesn't end with mating. In fact, for the female, the most grueling chapter is yet to come. After the battle of the currents, she must begin her journey back, not just to land, but to the land, the place of her birth. Carrying dozens, sometimes hundreds of developing eggs within her, she navigates across great blue stretches, fueled by instinct and dwindling reserves. It's a lonely voyage, but she's done it before, perhaps more than once. With each beat of her flippers, her body prepares for a new test: emergence, excavation, and the laying of life into the sand. The males, on the other hand, remain adrift. There's no paternal duty here. Their part is brief, brutal, and absolute. Many will attempt again with other females. Others will disappear into the blue, perhaps never to breed again. Nature doesn't promise fairness, only function. Curiously, the courtship behavior of turtles can vary wildly depending on species and environment. Green turtles tend to engage in these chaotic rituals in open water near nesting beaches, while loggerheads are more solitary in their romantic strategy, sometimes ambushing females in the shallows. Leatherbacks, with their massive, softer shells, add yet another layer of complexity. Their mating rituals may occur far from shore, in the cold pelagic zones, and can last hours. But perhaps the most astonishing twist is not what happens in the moment, but what comes after. Female turtles, upon nesting, will return to the ocean not once, but multiple times within a single season to lay again. And each time, it is the result of that same genetic deposit from the sea-bound brawl. One dance can fuel a dynasty. As the sun fades over the water and the rippling glow of the reef gives way once more to twilight blues, the chaos settles. The sea returns to calm. The female glides away, slow and serene, the echoes of battle behind her. Her body is heavier now, not from exhaustion, but from promise. Within her the future already stirs, silent and waiting, curled in fragile eggs not yet shaped by the tide. But before they reach the sand, before she lays the next generation beneath the stars, there is one final crucible she must pass, a gauntlet of ancient memory, long beaches, and the lurking shadows that await her every step. The land calls her home, but the shore is no haven. It is a stage where the predator's patience is long and the margin for error is vanishingly thin. The sea is still under the weight of night, its black surface rippling softly beneath the stars. There is no wind, only the whisper of waves brushing the shore with rhythmic patience. The air is heavy with salt and age, a scent that has lingered unchanged for millennia. On this forgotten strip of sand, far from cities, far from sound, something stirs. Not a storm, not a tide, but something older, something returning. Out of the surf a shape begins to rise, slow, deliberate, burdened by time. The turtle does not charge or sprint or leap. She emerges with the weight of the ocean clinging to every scale. Her limbs, so graceful in water, now struggle against the stubborn pull of gravity. The sand grips her like a jealous lover, eager to slow her down, to test her resolve. With each labored motion, she hauls herself forward, flippers sweeping in arcs, leaving deep tracks behind her. There is no ceremony here, no applause, only effort, raw, silent, and ancient. This is the beach, her beach, the same one she fled as a hatchling decades ago, dodging crabs, birds, and fate itself. It has changed slightly, imperceptibly. Storms have sculpted it, trees have shifted, perhaps a new dune now rises where none once stood. But to her, it is unmistakable. Not just the shape of the land, but its magnetic fingerprint, its chemical breath, its subtle voice embedded in the waves. She has circled oceans to find it again, guided not by memory in the way we understand it, but by a sense buried so deep in her body, it borders on myth. Her journey is not one of miles, but of lifetimes. And now, on this fragile threshold between sea and land, she comes to complete the circle. The crawl is grueling. Her own body weight presses into the soft terrain, and with every meter gained, she loses another ounce of strength. Her shell, once gliding through blue currents like a living ship, now becomes a burden. But she persists, driven by hormones, instincts, and something deeper still, the unspoken contract of life, to pass it on. Behind her, the tide recedes slightly, its wet fingers trailing her path. Ahead, the dry sand awaits, hot even in darkness, packed tight from days of sun. This is where she must dig, and dig she does. Flippers are not shovels, but she makes them work. Slowly, methodically, she scoops away the sand with her rear limbs, hollowing out a chamber beneath her. The shape is precise, almost perfect, an inverted pear about half a meter deep. It is a ritual performed with a kind of hypnotic rhythm, as though she has done it 1,000 times before, though in truth she has likely done it only a handful. And each time she acts as if no other world exists beyond the hole she carves in the earth. Then the laying begins. One by one she deposits her future into the pit. The eggs are not hard-shelled like a bird's, but soft, pliable, like ping-pong balls made of leather. They fall silently into the sand's embrace, collecting in a cluster that soon resembles a pale treasure hoard. Some females will lay over 100 in a single session, expelling them with slow contractions that ripple up her body like ocean swells. Her breathing slows, her flippers go still, and for a moment she seems to vanish inward, a trance of biological surrender. But she is not alone. The beach watches. Somewhere near the tree line, eyes glint in the dark. A monitor lizard, tongue flicking, senses the disturbance. Further inland, a jackal listens for the soft scraping of flippers. Overhead, an owl shifts on a branch, its gaze fixed to the sand. Even in this sacred act of creation, danger hovers like mist. Some turtles are ambushed during nesting. Others are robbed after they return to sea, their efforts unguarded, their eggs plundered by claws and teeth before morning. Nature offers no maternity leave, only the chance to try. And yet, when the last egg has dropped, the turtle stirs again. Her trance breaks. Slowly, she begins to bury the nest, flinging sand with surprisingly deft movements, disguising the site with the skill of a practiced saboteur. She doesn't linger. There's no time to admire the work, no pause to reflect. Her mission complete, she turns back toward the surf, retracing her trench of exhaustion, her body visibly lighter, yet visibly spent. Her journey back is no less punishing. Each drag of her flipper pushes sand behind her like waves parting for a shipwreck. She halts often, breathing deeply, her head tilted as if listening to some signal buried beneath the sea foam. When she finally reaches the water's edge, a small wave washes over her face. Then another, and with a final heave, she vanishes, swallowed by the sea that raised her, leaving behind only tracks, fragile scars in the sand soon erased by wind and tide. Her eggs will rest in silence, warming in the sand's slow oven. Temperature will determine their fate. Cooler nests tend to produce more males, warmer ones more females. A difference of just a few degrees may change the future sex ratio of entire populations. Some may not survive, drowned by heavy rains, unearthed by predators, or suffocated in collapsed chambers. But those that do will begin their own trials beneath the surface, preparing for the sprint, the crawl, and the mad dash to sea. Few will make it. Fewer still will ever return. But one might. Decades from now, under a different sky and a reshaped moon, one tiny hatchling, grown large, armored, and wise, may feel the same pull through her blood. She will swim across continents, past hurricanes and reefs, past sharks and drift nets, until she finds this beach again. Not because she remembers it, but because the earth remembers her. And when she does, she too will crawl ashore, slow and relentless, carrying the future beneath her shell. But that future, for now, lies hidden, beneath the sand, still forming, still dreaming, waiting for the moment the moon rises high enough and the tide dares them forward. Because next comes the hatch. And the beach is hungry. The beach is quiet now, deceptively so. By day it bakes under the relentless sun, grains of sand shimmering like powdered gold, each one absorbing heat with quiet intensity. By night, a hush settles over the dunes, broken only by the occasional rustle of ghost crabs skittering across the moonlit crust, or the whisper of leaves shifting in the offshore breeze. There are no signs of life here, nothing moves, and yet just beneath the surface, hidden in chambers dug by tired flippers weeks ago, an entire generation is waiting to be born. The nests lie buried, invisible to the eye, scattered across the slope like hidden time bombs of biology. Each one holds within it a quiet war of elements, where birth is not a moment but a process, one shaped not by genetics alone, but by temperature, timing, and chance. Deep inside these sandy wombs, leathery eggs rest nestled together, their soft shells slowly firming with time, their contents shifting from translucent goo to something that stirs. It begins in darkness, without sound. The embryo, barely more than a spiral of cells, curls like a question mark around its yolk. No eyes, no limbs, no flippers. But already something ancient stirs in its chemistry, the blueprint of a traveler. As days pass, the temperature above plays its quiet role. Too cold, and development slows to a crawl. Too hot, and the eggs risk becoming lifeless husks. But more intriguingly, the warmth decides something more fundamental than survival. It chooses their future identity. In sea turtles, sex is not written at conception. It is written by the sun. A few degrees in either direction can swing the balance. Cooler nests yield mostly males, while warmer sand tips the scales toward females. There is no in-between, no fail-safe, just a delicate equilibrium between fate and forecast. On hotter beaches, entire cohorts of sisters are born in 1 year, only for the pendulum to swing back with a season of cooler brothers. It's nature's peculiar way of population control, relying on the chaos of weather to balance the scales. Inside each egg, the transformation is relentless. Eyes form first, followed by the curved beak, the paddle-shaped flippers, and then, with astonishing precision, the hardening of the carapace. Tiny hearts begin to beat. Lungs folded like sea flowers prepare to inflate for the first time, even though that moment is still weeks away. The turtle, long before it ever touches water, is sculpted by heat, smothered in sand, and tuned to survival. but survival here is anything but guaranteed. Storms can come suddenly. Tropical rains, fat and violent, turn soft dunes into sodden traps. If too much water seeps in, the chamber becomes a tomb. Oxygen dwindles, the temperature plummets. Embryos nearly ready to emerge can drown in their own nursery. Conversely, heat waves scorch the surface like a kiln. If the top layer of sand becomes too hot, it cooks the uppermost eggs, sometimes killing half the clutch before the rest are ready. The turtle's first test isn't against a predator or a crashing wave. It is against the thermostat of the Earth itself. And even when the weather holds steady, other risks lurk. Ants find their way into nests, drawn by scent and warmth. They crawl inside the eggs, devouring the unhatched from within. Moles, lizards, and burrowing mammals dig blindly through the dunes, unearthing yolk-rich prizes. And then there are the ghost crabs, the ever-watchful custodians of the beach. With claws sharp as scissors and patience unmatched, they wait for the faintest tremor in the sand, the slightest hint that something is beginning to stir. Because eventually, the waiting ends. When the time is right, usually under the veil of night, when the sand cools and the world is quiet, the hatchlings begin to move. Not all at once, but in waves, like a slow drumbeat building to a crescendo. Inside each egg, the turtle's egg tooth, a tiny temporary spike on the tip of the nose, presses against the shell. The first crack is soft, then another, then another. Across the clutch, dozens of newborns begin to break free, emerging from their cramped chambers into a world they cannot see but are compelled to reach. And now begins a strange ritual of coordination. Rather than digging alone, each turtle waits until enough siblings have hatched. When their numbers swell, they begin to climb, not as individuals but as a team. Their tiny flippers work in unison, churning the sand above them into a loose funnel. It is the first, and perhaps only moment of true cooperation they will ever know. One by one, they rise toward the surface, pushed upward not by strength, but by persistence and a sense of gravity they've never experienced until now. But timing is everything. Surface too early in the day, and the sun can bake them alive. Emerge too late, and the dawn will reveal them to predators. Somehow, impossibly, they know to wait. And when night returns, cool and dim, they make their move. The sand shifts, a flipper appears, then another. And then, a dark bloom of movement spills across the beach like ink. Hatchlings, dozens of them, erupt onto the surface in a flurry of frantic motion. They are silent, vulnerable, but determined. Their eyes, newly opened, are drawn instinctively to the brightest horizon, the ocean reflecting starlight, calling them home. But the beach is not kind. Awaiting them in the shallows are hungry eyes. Birds, crabs, and nocturnal hunters patrol the shoreline. Some turtles are scooped up mere inches from the sea. Others are flipped onto their backs by uneven ground, helplessly flailing. Some vanish in the jaws of waiting predators before they even know what fear is. But most somehow make it, each one propelled by nothing more than the frantic urgency of survival. And once they hit the water, the rules change again. The waves toss them, the currents pull them. But they don't stop. They cannot. In the mad scramble of their first moments, only one thing matters: distance. They must leave the shore far behind, reaching open waters where floating mats of seaweed may offer shelter, where the deep can finally cradle them in relative safety. Those that vanish leave no trace, but those who make it carry the imprint of their birth, the temperature that chose their sex, the beach that forged their instincts, the moment they first touched sea foam. These memories will not be remembered in the way we understand memory, but they will live in their blood, their bones, their mysterious ability to one day return. And return they will. Because in this story, the sand is both cradle and crucible. And for those who survive the waiting game, the ocean does not offer rest. It offers the next test. The current is calling now, and for the lucky few that pass through these shifting sands, the drift begins. Far below the surface, in waters tinted green by depth and time, a shadow glides. Slow, deliberate, immense. It does not flutter or flinch. It does not race or hide or perform. It simply moves, as if the ocean itself is carrying it forward like a forgotten relic set adrift. This is no hatchling, no juvenile swept along by current or panic. This is a titan, a sea turtle older than many reefs, heavier than a grown man, and slower than everything except extinction. At over 80 years old, she is a survivor of eras, an elder among fleeting lives. and she has stories etched into her shell that only the ocean knows how to read. Her body is a history book. Scars lace across her leathery skin, some pale and shallow, others deep and rugged. One jagged groove along her flank hints at a narrow escape from a tiger shark's bite. Another mark near her rear flipper is the healed-over aftermath of some forgotten entanglement. But she is whole. More than whole. She is thriving. Because survival for creatures like her is not about speed or luck. It is about wisdom, forged slowly, over decades, in the rhythm of currents, the silence of depth, and the fierce, invisible wars of the sea. These elder turtles, the ocean's quiet titans, are unlike any other life forms. In a world of fast lives and short reigns, they are patient rulers. Many have outlived entire schools of fish, watched reefs collapse and rebuild, seen islands erode and regrow. Some, like the giant leatherbacks, weigh over 700 kilograms and dive deeper than submarines, plunging into blackness where sunlight has never danced. There, amid crushing pressures and alien bioluminescence, they feed on jellyfish in silence, mouths closing around gelatinous shapes like ghosts swallowing ghosts. They can dive for over an hour without surfacing, hearts beating just once every 9 minutes in the deep trance of survival. Unlike their younger counterparts, these ancient mariners no longer travel impulsively. They navigate with deliberation, with purpose. One such turtle, tagged off the coast of Papua New Guinea, was later found thousands of kilometers away near Baja California. No fanfare, no announcement. Just slow, persistent motion across the planet's greatest wilderness. Some of these giants may circle entire oceans in their lifetime, not once, but many times, tracing migratory loops that span decades. They are not lost. They are not wandering. They are remembering. In the company of these aged navigators, something becomes clear. The ocean is not just a place they inhabit. It is part of them, and they of it. Their bodies tuned to lunar cycles, to seasonal swells, to the silent tectonics of the sea floor. When a storm brews thousands of kilometers away, they feel its echo before the waves arrive. When coral begins to bleach in warming waters, they change course. Not out of panic, but calculation. They have been here before. They have adapted before. Evolution has carved into them a kind of biological patience, one that laughs in the face of urgency, and they are not entirely alone. In some hidden corners of the sea, old turtles find one another. Slow-moving constellations drawn together for unknown reasons. Do they recognize each other? Do they remember? Science doesn't know, but in rare moments, divers have watched two elders drift side by side for hours, flipper to flipper, not courting, not competing, just being. A wordless companionship, forged perhaps in the mutual knowledge that they've lived through what most never reach. Not all stories are triumphant. Some elders vanish mid-journey, pulled under by sickness, entrapment, or unseen jaws. Others strand themselves on remote beaches, their time simply finished. And yet even in death, they continue the cycle. Their bones feed the reef, their shells become shelters for scavengers, and their energy returns to the sea that shaped them. But those who endure, who push past 80, 90, even 100 years, become more than survivors. They become symbols, living proof that slow and steady is not just a fable, but a force of nature. And their existence offers something rare in the animal kingdom, a link across generations. A hatchling born today may one day swim beside a turtle born before the invention of color television. In that moment, two timelines converge, one beginning, one still unfolding, both gliding through the same water under the same moon. There is a quiet nobility to these creatures. They do not rule by tooth or claw. They do not hunt or chase. And yet, they are among the ocean's most enduring monarchs. Everything they do, every migration, every dive, every nesting return, is a thread in a tapestry that has been woven across time without ever breaking. And the shell they carry is not just armor or tool or burden. It is a vault of memories, a map of the sea written in scars and curves and age. As our titan dives again, vanishing into the indigo beneath, a trail of bubbles rises in her wake, soft, ephemeral, like whispered secrets. She will keep traveling. She must. Because for the sea turtle there is no final destination. Only movement, only return, only the endless road of the sea. And somewhere in the currents behind her, a young turtle begins its journey. Wide-eyed, fragile, clueless. But already the tide is teaching. The current is guiding. The voyage begins anew. Because the Odyssey never ends, only the voyagers change.